is it? What's going on here?
What is it?
Tell you next week.
It's a milkshake with some...
Everyone give Moses a hand here. Moses Grubb, thank you very much for your assistance. Thank you.
Oh my God. Ladies and gentlemen, if Pete Goldie didn't come here once a week and explain to you what was happening out in outer space, you still wouldn't care. And that's the truth. Listen! KroB, can you stop that? Because that's just unnecessary abuse of the audience. And the audience has been abused enough by Pete Goldie. KroB, I demand that you stop the carnival music.
And I tell you, every time we come here, damn it, it just gets better and better!
KroB?
You people are dynamite!
You know, it's not easy, ladies and gentlemen.
People call them black holes on Mars, but they're not black holes on Mars. They're actually called rimless pits.
Rimless pits.
Rimless pits.
It reminds me of a girl I used to date from Newark.
Well, the rimless pits on Mars, they think that there are probably, volcanic tubes underneath them that collapsed, right, Moses? Yeah, right. And they're pretty sure that's that, but they're just totally black. They don't really know what's in them. So they waited until the right sun angle on one day, and they got the orbiter overhead, that one right there.
And they took a picture down the hole?
They took a picture down the hole of the rimless pit. And this is inside the pit.
There it is.
And I can tell you something in length about this pit. This rimless pit is 310 meters in diameter. It's about 1,000 feet. It's a pretty big hole. And on the bottom of that pit, they have, what do you say, chicken?
Dirt.
Dirt and what else?
Dust.
And
maybe some pebbles.
Yeah, okay, that's what they got. They're actually boulders. That thing's 1,000 feet across there. Really want to change it.
So what you're saying is that we spent billions of dollars to get a camera into space.
Yes.
To wait for the sun to be at the proper configuration, calibration, so that it's shining down this gigantic pit.
Yes.
And we took a picture down it, and there was a bunch of dirt in the pit.
Yes. Last week I briefly talked for 20 minutes about...
all right, dust.
Right. And
water, frozen water. There's 1 billion gallons of frozen water under the surface of the moon.
Hardly two. Hardly two. The comet, which had giant fluffy snowballs of carbon dioxide and water ice bursting from the surface, and they had a flyby, and they got some great pictures of that. And remember, that comet is only about 1,500 feet across. So that comet is like smaller than the distance between here and the Chase Bank on the corner of 25th and Mission. That's how big that comet is. And yet you can see this big snowball amount of stuff flying off there, causing a slightly greenish glow there. And they got this image just as it was going by the double cluster of Perseus. So that's a very contextually appealing, attractive, astronomical image of a double cluster of stars and a comet in the background, all in one frame. Isn't that incredible? Here we have...
There it is.
Watch. A star cluster passing by what? F-ring of Saturn.
Whoa!
So this was taken as the Cassini orbiter, which you see up here, floating in space. Can you see that, Moses? Can you see it?
Yes.
Up there. Took these 15 images stitched together as it appears to be motionless in
So
space.
let me get this straight. A star cluster is a
bunch of stars.
Right. Just want to make sure of that.
Okay, now the star cluster that went by, you want to know the name of that, or just you're satisfied with it just being a bunch of stars?
Go ahead, tell me the name, yeah.
Well, it's the NGC 5139, that's the new galactic catalog. Or it's also called the Omega Centauri cluster. So there, thought you'd like that. It's rather pretty, there. That cluster was first observed by Ptolemy. Anyway, and it was recognized as a globular cluster by John Herschel, the famous musician, astronomer of England.
Hey, Pete, do you have anything that's interesting or funny?
Yes. Now check this out. What do we see there? You see
idea.
A green arrow.
A carpet.
A green arrow, and it's pointing at a small white dot. moving against a field of stars. There. What is that? Well, that happens to be a Trojan. And a Trojan asteroid is an asteroid that exists within a certain resonance orbit within the same orbit of a planet. And it's a region of stability 60 degrees before, leading and 60 degrees trailing a planet. This one happens to be the planet Neptune, which, by the way, was observed by John Herschel, I was just talking about earlier. Did I mention that John Herschel discovered Uranus?
Hey!
Yeah, he called it Georgia. He named it after the king.
You had to ruin it, didn't you?
Yeah. But anyway, here's the interesting thing about this Trojan. Trojan asteroids are well known around Jupiter because they're easy to see. But it just so happens that if you're looking at the orbit of Neptune, you're looking against this huge field of stars. And to find one little tiny dot moving against that huge field is hard. Because, you know what? That green arrow is not actually in the sky. It's not really there. The green arrow.
I'm going to kill you.
Yeah. So the only way what they did is they knew that there was a possibility of some of these Trojans being in there, and they waited until there was a patch of darkness. And they looked at that patch of darkness where there's an obscuring dust blot there, right behind that, and sure enough, they found that. Anyway, by doing some numbers, some statistics, they figure that the L5 and the L4 Trojans, these are the Lagrange points, the radiant points that lead and trail the orbit of Neptune, they have estimated that there are perhaps 150 other of these, of which they have now found less than a dozen, after looking intensely for a long, long, long time.
You know, Pete, I feel like I'm in a patch of darkness right now.
But the Japanese have another mission that was launched recently, a few months ago, heading to Venus. And that mission was going to put an orbit around Venus and study the atmosphere of Venus. A very high-profile mission if you're in Japan. I want to show you an interesting, 2 days ago, an acquaintance of mine who looks at spacey things noticed an interesting chart on the Japanese agency website. Now, read along with me here. Rotation rate of spacecraft versus time as it was supposed to enter orbit around Venus. And this is the normal rotation. It's barely rotating amongst the X, Y, and Z axis. Here it's very stable. At this point, it's supposed to go into orbital insertion. And this red line here suddenly indicates that the spacecraft was spinning wildly. Yes. No mention of this whatsoever in the press.
So what you're telling me is they spent billions of dollars and their spaceship was spinning wildly out of control, and you can't make that interesting or funny?
Only the last 3 minutes of the mission, as they were trying to enter orbit, did it start spinning wildly out.
Well, your whole bit is only supposed to be 5 minutes, you know?
Well, those 3 minutes were critical for this mission. And it turned out it was spinning wildly out of control, and they are still waiting. There's still no official announcement from this mission, but what number image are we up to there, David Capurro?
We're on 10.
10. Hey! Let's look at 11.
There it is!
Image number 11.
Oh my God!
This, I'm happy to tell you,
Fucking hangnail!
this is a picture of Venus taken by that spacecraft after it attempted to enter orbit, but in fact did not enter orbit, flew right by it, and went 600,000 miles, turned around and took some pictures of it. And the good news is that every single scientific instrument on that spacecraft is working perfectly.
Thank you for that report.
But it did not enter orbit, and it will not even get close to Venus for another 6 years. They think that the propellant lines broke, and the nozzle on the rocket thing snapped off. It was made out of ceramics. And 6 years, they're going to try and enter that again into orbit around Venus, but in 6 years it'll probably still also not work because it's broken. Sad day for the Japanese Space Agency. The only reason I'm pointing this out is this is not anything that you would find watching NKTV, Japanese TV, American TV, any TV. This has not been observed by anyone except the most nerdiest nerds of the nerdy space community who have recognized that there was a spin rate out of control, and there was an image taken of a planet that was 600,000 miles away and was supposed to be in orbit. Things didn't work out right. Still a secret, but you know about it here in the Ask Dr. Hal show.
I'm gonna kill you in like 13 seconds. But before we can have a show, we have to have the pre-show, where we fix the record player. And during the pre-show is where we establish the show. This is actually the part of the show is before the pre-show, which makes this the pre-pre-show. To establish the pre-show so we can establish the show, so that we can have the post-show party in the hot tub with Chris Carney and Bandy Lake in the backyard. Okay.
Yeah.
But before any of that can happen, we have to look to the future. To the future. To space. Final frontier. These are the monologues of the astrologer Pete Goldie. Pete Goldie, our resident astrologer, looking to the future. Space. Hybrid spaceships. Wearing a silly hat.
I'm lost.
He's lost in space.
In space.
Is this supposed to be funny? Did you think it was going to be funny?
It's not funny.
Should we start over?
Yeah.